going to talk about the very promises that made to every nation these days. So think of Part 2 of our federal constitution as your personal shield. But as we stand here in 2026, is it we have to ask, is that shield that made of vibranium or has it weathered into cardboard only? So joining me today is an elite panelist, which is our Prime Minister Memiza. So our architect of order with a background of a former High Commissioner and decades in civil service in our country. So her focus has always been the machinery of the state. So may you introduce yourself, Mrs. Memiza?
Hi everyone. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Deep Dive constitutional organizers to invite me. And today I can't be able to join with you all as I am at Japan right now. So now at 3 a.m. So it is really uh too early to me. So thank you, Natasha. To me, the federal constitution is not just a legal document, but it is also the blueprint where make sure or maintain the peace within the country. So my priorities is to ensure that our cherish liberties where we never compromise the stability that also allows the nation to thrive. So right without the orders merely chaos. So, Natasha, actually, I prefer that the servant of the people, where my focus is stability. So, I have also spent around 30 years ensuring that this country doesn't buckle under the pressure, right without order, that's just a chaos.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister Nafisa. So, are we moving on to add our vibes? We have here, or we call it as the spirit of the law here. And we have our Mrs. Simran, our veteran NGO advocate and human rights lawyer with your 29 years with, experience, right? So, may you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Mansimran Kaur. So let me introduce myself. Okay, I'm the conscience of this panel. Okay, having represented marginalized communities in the highest courts, I'm here to make sure public interest doesn't trample on human dignity.
Thank you, Mrs. Simran, for your great introduction of yourself. So next we have our analyst here, Rafikin. So Mrs. Rafikin, she's a senior lecturer from University Malaya with a PhD in constitutional theory from Oxford. So, can you tell more about yourself, Mrs. Rafikin?
Thank you for introducing me, Ms. Natasha. I have spent my career in the halls of University Malaya, teaching students that the law isn't about feeling, it's a process science, it's no vibes, just doctrine and focusing on the law itself.
Thank you, our lecturer, Rafikin. So finally, our interpreter-in-chief, jurist Sri Ranjini. So a retired federal court judge who has presided over some of the most landmark constitutional cases in the last decade. So can you tell more about yourself, Mrs. Sri Ranjini?
I'm the gatekeeper. I bridge the gap because at the end of the day, the Constitution is what the country says it is.
And now we are discussing for segment 2, Article 5, the guardrails of liberty. So Article 5 is about the right to life and liberty. So PM, your administration has faced heat over the continued use of preventive laws. So how do you keep security from becoming suspiciously long detentions?
Basically, Natasha, if you see, it is a delicate balance where the liberty is also not just a license for chaos, but when we look at threats, be they domestic extremisms and also organized crime, we have to act before it fuels the leak. So it is also the heavy burden of a preventative responsibility also. I rather explain a detention to a lawyer rather than explain a tragedy to a grieving family.
Okay, thank you, PM. But PM, a legal skeleton here is the phrase "safe in accordance with law." In the faculty, we debate this constantly. If Parliament passes a law that allows for 28 days of detention without a judge, Article 5, subsection 1 technically permits it. The law cares about the how, the procedure more than the moral why. If the paperwork is perfect, the detention is valid, even if it feels unjust.
Okay. And that is exactly why technical value is a nightmare for the average Malaysian. Okay, I have sat in remand hearings where the procedures was followed, and yet the suspect hadn't seen sunlight or a lawyer in a week. Okay, Article 5 should be shield, not a trap door, not a trap door. If we don't safeguard the right to legal counsel from the moment of arrest, the guardrails aren't just shaky, they are non-existent.
This is where the judiciary has had to evolve. We moved away from being mere legal mechanics. We used the doctrine of professionality. In my later years on the bench, we started asking, is this detention truly necessary for national security, or is it just convenient for the police? We checked if the state used a sledgehammer when a nutcracker would have sufficed.
Article 8, the Equality Clause, PM, like in 2026, the conversation has shifted. So people are asking why certain administrative policies still favor one group over another. So is a social contract a bridge or a roadblock?
Actually, it is neither, because it is also known as foundation. So we manage with wisdom, and also we cannot ignore the historical content of Article 153, which provides for the special position of the Malays and also the natives of Sabah and Sarawak. So my job is to balance and the aspiration of a modern and also meritocratic 2026 with the foundational compromises that kept this nation whole in 1957.
So in my opinion, Article 8 is quite robust. It says all persons are equal before the law, but the lack we see today isn't usually the Constitution itself. In the bureaucracy, the red tape often tangle the text. For example, the Constitution doesn't say a woman can't pass citizenship to her child born overseas. But for years, administrative forms were designed as if only father existed.
Okay, exactly. Equality should not be a political negotiation or a gradual roll out. Okay, for a mother waiting for her child IC, wisdom just sound like a delay. Okay, I have represented families where siblings have different rights, because of where they were born. Okay, it is heart-wrenching, and Article 8 should mean that no matter your gender or background, the state sees you with one single clear eye.
The court's role is to ensure Article 8 is a given truth. In the case of Indira Gandhi, we saw that you cannot use one part of the law to extinguish the fundamental rights of another. Equality must grow with the people. If the society of 2026 believes in gender equality, the law must reflect that, or it becomes a dead letter.
So, Mrs. Simran, you have 29 years experience of being the front line, right? So, how would you describe an adequate, and would you mind to share your experience on this?
Okay, but the adequate is deeply subjective. I've worked with orang asli communities, whose ancestral land were valued, at the market rate for undeveloped dirt. Okay, to them the island is their temple. Okay, temple is it's not just their temple. Okay, it's their pharmacy and their history. You can't put a price tag on a soul. Okay, for many, Article 13 feels like a for sale notice rather than a protection.
if you see, the national development is a train that cannot be stopped. Whether it's a new transit line or a renewable energy hub, but the collective need must be sometimes overweigh the individual. When we provide the adequate compensation as required by Article 30, subsection 2, we aren't like taking, we are trade purchasing for the future of the nation.
The court acts as the appraiser of justice. In recent years, we started looking closer at the procedure of compensation. We ensure that deprivation doesn't become confiscation. If the state wants your land, they must prove the necessity and pay the real human cost, not just the technical value.
So our law lecturer here, Rafikin, so what's the danger of qualified right?
So the legal battleground here is the Land Acquisition Act. The question we teach students is who defines the public purpose. So if the government takes land for a private developer to build what we call a luxury mall, is that truly for the public? The law is often too differential to the executive definition of progress.
And now we are moving on to our topic, Articles 14 to 15, which is about the citizenship dilemma. So this is like really the heartbreaker citizenship PM. So why is it that in 2026 it is like still easier for some to get red ID than for others to keep your blue one?
As for the citizenship, it is like a ultimate bond between a person and the state, where it is the highest honor we bestow. Therefore, we must guard the gates. Sovereignty is means we decide who belongs based on the commitment and legal alignment too. It is not about heartlessness, but it about the integrity of our national identity.
With all due respect, PM, it is heartlessness when we have stateless children born in nation hospital. Okay, speaking only Bahasa Malaysia, who have never left their village, yet are denied an IC because of paperwork error their grandparents made. We are creating a permanent underclass. Article 14 should be an open door for those who are born of our soil.
So this is the clash between jus sanguinis, right of blood, and the jus soli, right of soil. The Malaysian constitution is heavily weighted towards bloodline. The 2026 amendment have fixed the gender bias for mother, but what we call discretionary power of the Home Minister remains a massive hurdle towards the citizenship is threatened as a gift from the state rather than an inheritance right to the inhabitant.
The court has begun to recognize the right to have rights. To be stateless is to be legally invisible. You can go to school, get a bank account, or get married. We had to intervene in cases where the bureaucracy was being stubbornly literate. You cannot leave a human being in a legal void forever because a form was missing a step.
Without we realizing, we are almost halfway here. So as for our segment 7, we are going to talk about the Article 4, the Supreme Law. So Article 4 is the big boss clause, right? As we all know, it says the Constitution is the supreme law of the Federation. So Mrs. Rafikin, if a new law passed by 2/3 majority, 2/3 majority in Parliament clashes with the Constitution, who do you think we're gonna win this?
So based on your question is that the constitution every single time in theory, like in Article 4 in the master key, any law even one passed by a popular government is void, but the extent is consistency with the constitution. It's the prevent of tyrant of the majority. If the constitution says you have a right, a simple act of parliament can't just delete it.
But here we must be also be careful where because Parliament represents the current will of the 33 million people live here today. Because we shouldn't have a judicial overreach where unelected judges in robe strikes down what the people representative have spent months for debating. There must be a difference to the legislature also.
It isn't an overreach, Prime Minister. It's a check. Without Article 4, the Constitution is just a poem. Pretty to look at, but powerless. The court doesn't make the laws, but we are the referees. We ensure that the will of the people stays within the rule of the game. If the game is rigged, the referee has to blow the whistles.
Okay, and thank God for the whistle. Okay, without Article 4, our fundamental right would change every time there was a new election or a new coalition. It's the only thing that keeps our shield from being melted down and reshaped by whoever happens to be in power this year.
And now we're going to talk about the emergency by Articles 149 and also 150. So the big red button, Articles 149 and 150. PM, in a crisis, can you just turn off our rights?
Here, I prefer that the suspensions of survival because in 2026 we face threats that didn't exist in 1957, such as digital insurrections, global pandemics, climate-driven unrest. So, if the nation at risk, I have to act through the action. So, we pause like a small rights, like moving freely or gathering, to save the big rights. The right for the nation to exist, also a choice no leader wants to make, but many must.
Based on Article 149 is a doctrinal paradox. It's the Constitution explicitly permitting its own violation and allows for the law that are inconsistent with Article 5, 9 or 10. In my PhD thesis, I argued that Article 150 Proclamation of Emergency need a sunset clause. It meant to be a safety valve for the engine, not in any way to drive the car indefinitely.
Fear. Once you hit the pause on the right, that the state gets very comfortable. Okay, we saw this during lockdowns and various security areas. An emergency shouldn't be a rights-free zone. If you can't justify detention to a judge during an emergency, then the emergency is being used as a cover for bad governance.
This is where the basic structure doctrine comes in. Even in a state of emergency, the core pillars of constitution, like the independence of the judiciary, cannot be touched. The Prime Minister can dissolve the courts or stop us from hearing the cases. We are the emergency brake.
We are nearing the end of our dive. So it is 2026 and Malaysia is a global player. So how does our living document look to the rest of the world? Mrs. Simran, would you mind to answer that?
Okay, we are still lagging. We haven't ratified several key UN convention on civil and political rights. If we want to lead the world in 2026, we need to stop being afraid of global standard. Human rights aren't Western values. They are universal human needs.
Actually, I disagree with you because we lead the Asian values where the stability, non-interference, and also consensus. We don't need outsider to come in with a checklist to tell us that how to run our household. Our constitution works for our history and our people too. So we are a sovereign nation and not a satellite of the international NGOs.
Legally, though we are seeing more comparative constitutionalism, our younger judges are citing cases from South Africa, India, and the United Kingdom. We are taking the best ideas from around the world and Malaysianizing them. Our law is becoming more sophisticated because we are finally looking beyond our own borders.
The world looked at us as a model of how a Muslim majority, multi-ethnic democracy functions. Our constitution is our calling card. When we uphold it, our international stock rises. When we ignore it, we lose our seat at the table.
A few moments later.
And now we are already in our final discussion. So the final thoughts from the panel is our 2026 deep dive is a success. So our honorable Prime Minister, what do you think about our deep dive today?
So for my last thought, basically it is a successful stability where the constitution has ensured that despite our differences and we haven't broken yet.
A success of framework, the skeleton is strong, but it requires constant medical checkup to stay relevant.
Okay, a struggle for substance. We have the word on paper. Now we need the courage to live them every day for every citizen.
A living reality. It's not a dusty book in a museum, it's a conversation we are having right now.